Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I think QT Marshall, whatever that New Japan comment is, he doesn't. I don't think he's a guy that seemingly likes the WWE style of sports entertainment. I mean, his character was full. QTV was full on sports entertainment.
That was ass, by the way. Like if there was
a couple packs of ass for sure.
If there was a worst gimmick award,
I think there is.
That would be heavily considered by me.
Yeah. So he is an interesting character in that realm. I don't necessarily think the idea of like what counts as sports entertainment is a very interesting line to me. Like there was also that quote from Matt Hardy this week as well, where he talked about how kind of almost similarly to what QT was sort of talking about, how that he wishes that there was more character-driven storytelling than just matches. And he talked about how great character-driven storytelling is being told in the Adam Copeland, Christian Cage feud, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good character-driven story right there. But what's interesting is that like I don't consider that like sports entertainment. I consider that feud like wrestling. It's two people that want to fight and they're going to fight in a wrestling match. Maybe there's an argument that the title doesn't really matter in this wrestling match, and there's that aspect of it. But it's at the end of the day, that feels like wrestling. Character-driven storytelling is important to wrestling, and what I would consider wrestling. But there's this fine line where, like, as soon as you start crossing into like timeless Tony Roderick Strong WWE-isms, that's where it bleeds into sports entertainment. For you, Scotty, where do you think that line is, and where do you think just matches New Japan style to this WWE thing is? Like, where is this divide now that we're talking about it of sports entertainment into wrestling into sports entertainment? Where's that line for you?
It's funny that you say it's pro wrestling because Meltzer says it's all sports entertainment at the end of the day, because like technically the term is exactly what it is, because this is a written sport. But the line for me is, and I really don't care what we call it at this point. Like,
sure.
The line for me is, look at the MJF and Adam Cole story. I'm someone that was supportive of that for a few months there, and then I fell off, right? The line is the over enthusiasms of a character. And what I mean by that is overacting, over the top characters that don't follow the rest of the company. And when I say that, I'm not trying to say someone should stand out, but Timeless Tony was working really well in the original realm, right? She was going crazy. She didn't know, right? Because after she lost her title, she's losing her mind. And then somehow we got to
full on black and white.
Right. Every time she's on my screen, it's in black and white. And she's talking in a specific accent, and that's overboard. There was a driven story there with her going crazy, and then it went off the tracks. That is something that I think you go from the pro wrestling character to what, like what you're saying, sports entertainment. And listen, I don't even think this is something WWE would do. I don't think they're turning their screen black and white for a character like this. Maybe they did for like the VOD villains in NXT. Congratulations, you're being compared to the VOD villains that never made it successfully out of NXT. Awesome. I think what Matt Hardy is trying to say is that he wants more stories told in the ring, like in Edge and Christian, which are great, but some stories just don't need that either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? The best story-driven work from this week, besides the Edge and Christian stuff, were the promos that didn't air on TV after the Continental Classic matches. And you know how we got to those? Because of the matches. Because that is what pro wrestling is. stories need matches and matches need stories. I don't know if that's difficult for people to figure out. It's not just matches. Every match should be telling a story.
Yeah.
It's the matches that aren't telling any story that I could do without, for sure. But sometimes they're used to get us further down the line, right? You have a match between, the House of Black, Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels on Collision last night. That was to get us to the next part of the thing with FTR because they're going to come out after, but this is a way to get them on TV, have a cool match, whatever. That's fine. But the best stories are built through matches, just like we're seeing in the Continental Classic now. We started the first week. I think the first week was fine. It had a
kind
really
of a
good
wash.
Yeah, the last match for me of the entire tournament was the best one, of the tournament that week was the best one with Eddie and Brody King. But
Right.
other than that, it was like, all right, a wash. This week we absolutely ramped it up. We went to the levels that we expected from this tournament, and after that, they had these incredible promos. That's what wrestling's all about to me.
And we're starting to get some of those, as I talked about wanting in the Continental Classic. We're starting to get some of those long-term stories starting to be built up. Moxley starting to get injured, right? Roosh also kind of getting injured. Like you said, Dana Garcia is sort of like constantly overdoing it on wanting to be like this wrestler, overdoing the what's the Lion Dragon Tamer move, I think is what it's called. Overdoing it and losing because of it twice in a row.
I love where his story's going because I think, like, for example, it's going towards the Bryan Danielson match. The last time he was great, right?
Yeah.
Like the last time this guy was him. And I'm hoping that's where we finally get the Daniel Garcia that so many of us picked as like a future star of this company last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I'm wondering when that Daniel Garcia match is going to happen, right?
I would love if that's what kept Danielson out.
Me too. That would be very interesting. I don't know if
I can't see him missing the semifinals.
I think that. Well, the other question is like, because Danielson obviously missed his first match against Andrade, and they didn't do a bye or give Andrade points, so they're planning on doing the match as a makeup.
Yeah. They're gonna make that guy wrestle twice in a week.
Yeah. Well, that's my thought. Either he's wrestling twice a week on Dynamite and Collision, or
twice in
we do a show. We do a match in the pre-show or earlier in the night on World's End, and then the semifinal. Oh no, the semifinals.
No, semifinals are before that. Semifinals.
Oh really? No, then I have no idea what he's going to be doing this match.
They're just going to squish poor Danielson in, and he's going to wrestle with an eye patch, and he's going to have the best matches in the tournament. Because
I think the Continental Classic is a great way to showcase that you can tell stories through matches and not have matches happen around stories.
Yeah.
And they're starting to get into that more this week. And as the tournament goes on, I think they'll get into it even more. And I think that is really going to prove what works in wrestling. I mean, you and I are enjoying the Continental Classic, at least now in week 2.
They've made Brody King in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Daniel Garcia is going back to where he was in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Like,
not there yet, to be fair, but he's getting there.
I think I said this about like the Malachi stuff. One, Matt Sydal should be on TV more. 2, pro wrestling can be very easy. It can.
Yeah.
Booking the Continental Classic ain't easy, I'm sure. Like getting every match set up to make it all work. That's not easy. But what is easy is using a tournament like this to develop 12 wrestlers at one time in their stories.
Yeah.
You're feeling it for every single one of them. I saw that Jay White promo after his match this week, and I was like, oh my God, that's the Jay White I remember.
Yeah.
The John Moxley one, I think, speaks for itself. Like, this guy is just, he's on another level. But it's like, it's so easy. They have this great story with Eddie Kingston going on. He got too over confident. He put all his titles on the line. Now he's sitting at 0-2. Can he get back into it? It's just so good, so simple. It's exactly what this should be about. It's exactly what AEW should be about.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think for me, the line between sports entertainment and wrestling is what everything in wrestling, I think, should have character-driven stories.
Yeah,
I think one of the best stories, character-driven stories in AEW is the Elite and everything that happened with Adam Page, a character-driven story. And I think that obviously succeeded. And I think at the end of the day, if you want to look at that line between wrestling and sports entertainment, I think it is how much weight do the matches have in the story?
sure.
I think the idea of why I think Adam Copeland and Edge is a good wrestling story is because these two guys now, or at least Adam Copeland now, Christian less so based on this past Wednesday, but that's his character. They want to fight each other. And they're going to fight over a title. Adam Page and Omega fighting over, they want to fight each other. And it also happens to be they're fighting for the title. This story right now was we're going to create stories and they're fighting in a match. Moxley and Page this year fighting. They want to go and fight. Swerve and Adam Page at the last pay-per-view. They want to go out and fight. How much weight do the matches have? Yeah. I think that's where the matches with Timeless Tony don't matter.
No, they stink. Matter.
Roderick Strong, the matches don't really matter. MJF, kind of the matches don't really matter because we're just sort of at this point waiting to see what the devil does. So I think to me, it's like that's sort of the line. And you can have character-driven stories. You should have character-driven stories in wrestling. Some of the biggest people in wrestling are also characters. Ric Flair was also a character. Hulk Hogan was also
sucks. Hulk Hogan sucks.
I agree. You get my point there.
Can you name two worse people?
Shawn Michaels. It's fine.
I don't know if that's pretty close.
But
for other reasons, I guess.
The idea that Ric Flair is a great wrestler. He was a big time character. I think the thing is that matches have to matter, and I think you should have character driven stories. It's just you have to have matches that matter. And QT Marshall leaving, if he thinks just matches is too much, well, then I think he's missing the plot on potentially that matches also matter, and they should matter most when it comes to wrestling.